Back again another day. So, quick recap here. The engine, as far as the misfire, we got good compression. We got 120 on both cylinders. If we had a valve issue, valve was hanging open, we'd have no compression. If the valve was stuck closed, compression would be a lot lower in that cylinder. So, I think we're good to go there to assume it's ignition. What else here? Okay, so the clutch, got to do some exploratory opening it up. It does sound a little weird in the transmission area when it's happening, but no telling. It just could be all the backlash and the gears rattling, making a lot of noise. So today we will separate the bell housing, split the tractor, take a look at the clutch, and see what we got to work with. That's the plan anyway. So all I've done since the last section of video here is get a hoist and a jack and play around with position, see how stable I could make it. So when I lift up this front end here, it might tilt one way or another because we got a pivot point on the front. So I'll do some other bracing on it for that. The rear is going to be pretty straightforward with the floor jack, so we will go from there. All right, so we're back with the M. A quick recap on what's going on here. We had a cylinder 2 misfire. Check compression. Compression is 120 on both cylinders, so we're good there. So it's not going to be a valve issue, no compression issue, nothing engine mechanical, seems like. So we're going to go for ignition, do a tune-up, fix that. The clutch is still an unknown. I believe the disc is coming apart, but it's weird how it makes a lot of the sound in the back half, although that could just be the gear backlash making a lot of rattling noise when the clutch is doing what it's doing. So this next step here in this video, we're going to split the tractor and take a look at the clutch and see what we got. So all I did since the last video was just figure out a way to pick this up, make sure my hoist would do it, and this hoist will actually pick up the whole front of the tractor. So I guess it'll pick up just the front of the tractor. So should be pretty straightforward. This one should be easy to split. Got some hydraulic lines, throttle and steering, and fuel line, choke, and a cable going to power here. So not much to it. Alright, let's get started. First thing I want to do is work on the steering. That's probably might be the hardest one. So let's take a look at that and see what we got. Alright, so this particular tractor, the steering wheel is adjustable. It'll slide out. I think my best bet here, I don't want to have to disconnect it up front. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide the steering wheel all the way out, and then remove this with a couple clips, and then this tube, when I slide the front half of the tractor forward, will hopefully just slide right out. We'll see how that goes. So this doesn't normally slide all the way out. It gets that far. Then there's a pin right here you have to knock out. See if it'll zoom into it. Alright, so this pin here doesn't quite line up yet. Let me. Oh, I think I went too far forward. There we go. We'll take a punch from the other side, and hopefully it's not going to be horrible. Now it's going. There we go. Now let's see if the steering wheel slides all the way out. Look at that. Alright, next up I'm going to see if I can remove that piece there. Whatever that thing is called. That adjuster knob doohickey thingy. Okay. So there is a ball bearing in here you don't want to lose. Neat thing is, got this part, we'll be able to clean it up, make it work where it works nice and smooth. Alright, so theoretically, the steering shaft just slide out, won't have to worry about that. I think this throttle I might undo at the other end. Maybe. The other end seems pretty easy. But I don't have a lot of confidence in that sliding out as good as it should, so the other end's just some bolts and a spring. Let's take a look at that. So throttle rod comes in here and comes out, and then you have this little piece of linkage that you can't really see. I don't know. Does that help a little bit? Maybe. So we'll just unbolt this whole bracket off of here, disconnect the throttle linkage from the governor, and we'll go with that. I think that seems to be a better way to do that one. Move it to where the spring is less tension. Hey, it fell all the way through also. Take this. That was this piece of rod right here hooked on. Alright, now all we have is 2 screws. Or I should say 2 bolts. Alright, that's free. I should stay with the fuel tank. Only other thing we have on top, and I am going to wait a little bit on that, start doing some of the stuff on the bottom. So we have 2 hydraulic lines, pressure and return, and they go down back to the pump. I'm sorry, pumps in the front, they go back to the valves and cylinders in the back. So I'll wait to do that. I don't want to make a mess just yet. I'm going to go ahead and start disconnecting stuff from the engine, fuel line, temp sensor, that sort of thing. Tell you what I noticed, there's a little bit of a coolant leak. Glad I noticed it now, so I'm not blamed. Alright, so we got drippage on the floor. Probably coming from that valve. That valve might have got bumped. We'll take a look. We'll figure it out and fix that too. Okay, first thing I want to tackle is the choke lead, or I should say choke cable. Which I can't even see in there, so let's get a light. Okay, looks like a flathead screw. Alright, video got interrupted there. Now we're back at it. Hopefully I can get to it somehow with this longer screwdriver so I don't have to fit one down in there. Hey, it's turning too. That's a plus. Okay. Choke cable's out. Next, I'll go ahead and pull the fuel line, I think. Pull it right here. Use my same overgrown screwdriver. Alright. I don't want to stink up my shop, so I'm hoping I don't leak much. Let me find something to plug that hose with so it doesn't drip out of the filter. I always save these for just such an occasion. Thing there somewhere. Alright, I need to remove this line for the temperature gauge here. My first time ever working on an M. Truth be told, any old John Deere, older than about 20 years anyway. Alright, so we don't want to bend this too much here. We'll put it up. There's an important thing I forgot to do here. Disconnect the battery. Although we're not hitting electrical yet, we'll do that on the other side. So that's everything on this side, except obviously the bell housing bolts. Let's go take a look at the right side. So on this side, all we have is these wires. Yellow wire going to the coil, red wire going to the battery terminal and the alternator, and we got a black wire, which is the field to the alternator probably. Obviously the alternator is not original. I think in the receipt I saw where the guy had some work done, did oil pressure gauge, alternator, and repaired the clutch. Did not say replaced anything in the clutch, but at least repaired it. But I don't know what that repair is. Okay, that one's easy. Alright, take B plus off the alternator. That's going to mess with me here. Hold on. I'm just turning the entire post, and I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to try to reach behind here with these and hold it. There we go. Make sure we didn't loosen this up. Put that one back so throw it in the bucket. The other's coil wire, power wire going to the coil. Alright. That's it. Spiral bin back here. Gas tank and all that's going to stay with the rear half. Oh, that's our parting line. I do have little shield underneath I need to take off. I'll need to drop the strap a little bit to do that. I had my jack and hoist here keeping tension on this for a couple days just to verify it will actually hold and not leak down right away. Alright, it's kind of odd. Those are flathead screws. I don't know if I can get you down there. So, that's the cover. What we're pulling off here. I didn't really expect those to be very tight. Alright, so right now I removed this bottom bolt already because I wanted to check threads. Let me take some tension off of everything. I'm going to remove everything except the center bolt, but I do want to break it loose. That's not the right wrench there, but just want to make sure I can turn it all. Sitting here looking for the right wrench and it was in my pocket the whole time. Well, I guess it worked. And this one I already broke loose earlier because the wrench fit it. Alright, all we have left is 2 bolts, one on each side, and the hydraulic lines. Alright, something I like to do here, especially when putting it together, it helps, but taking it apart is nice too. Put a long bolt, in this case all thread. This is a 1/2 inch. But the big reason I do this when separating is if you separate it and something slips or whatever, it's not going to just swing. You know, the front end's not going to shift over, it's not going to swing. You get everything kind of balanced out while you're sliding it back. So next step before I loosen these bolts is I need to do my hydraulic lines. Hopefully we don't make a giant mess. Okay, it's actually loose. It was a little tougher to get to the rear of it. Ah, there we go. I get a little bit of fluid out of this one. Real good news is the fluid's clean. Alright, hydraulic lines are off, throttle's off, steering tube should slide out. everything's detached from the engine. Next step, I'm going to loosen those two center bell housing bolts about a 1/2 inch or so, and see if I can get everything balanced out and ready to separate. Alright, our gap on the top is a lot larger than the gap on the bottom. So I need to let down a tad. Like maybe on the jack, because the strap's pretty loose. Alright, now it's a little bit larger on the bottom. Go up a tad. I think we're close. Yeah, so our gap on top and bottom is pretty even here, so I'm going to go ahead and loosen those bolts up a tad more. See if I can shift it back some and everything balance out. Alright. Looks like it wants to go. Alright, nothing holding it together. Okay, all the bolts wiggle. Means we're balanced out pretty good. That one doesn't quite. Let's see, which way is it going? Yeah, this engine's wanting to tilt this way a little bit, so let me get another strap to help cheat that a little bit. Man, it just started storming outside. Let's see. Is it indeed leaning this way? A little bit of torque on it. Nothing that's going to break off this manifold. But the engine is trying to favor this side, and since I'm on a pivot, I want to stop that. Be nice if I had some wheel chocks set up. Just taking it slow. This is way better with 2 people. Alright, looks to me like the too high in the front.
gap on the top's a lot larger than the other. You wash my hands and we'll look around.
Alright, so there's a lot of shiny metal everywhere. Of course, that shiny metal could even be from the starter. I don't know. No, what you hear there is probably nothing because it's not supported by the engine anymore. There is a lot of rub marks inside of there. Throwout bearing's not horrible. Alright, let's look at the other side. You can see a bunch of the metal accumulated. Got a lot of metal around there. Ooh. I think we might have a pilot bearing screwed up, because if you look how off center that clutch disc is. Huh. Alright, well, on the outside nothing looks crazy. I mean, fingers are worn, but not too bad. Let's open this thing up. Okay. Pressure plate doesn't look horrible. Clutch disc isn't bad. There's plenty of room. Being a tractor that's just going to drive around for fun, it's probably fine. That's an issue, though. Now, my question, was this laying in there the whole time? Or actually, it probably just slid out because there's fresh marks in there. Well, see how it has a shoulder on it? I bet it was just riding around in the edge, possibly. I don't know. Let's see how it fits this. It's loose on the input shaft, but not crazy. But yeah, we are worn here, shiny, with a little divot in it. I guarantee it. You see how you see that little. Let me zoom into this stuff. Fingers are too nasty to zoom in. Hold on a second. Alright, there's enough signs here we could tell what happened. Let me get this bearing wiped down. Okay, first off, see how this bearing's worn? There's a shoulder. I got it wiped down now, but that was nice and shiny and everything else was dirty and black. So this bearing slid out of this flywheel and was just riding on the input shaft, which makes sense why there's all the grind marks inside the input shaft where it's touching the tube that the release bearing rides on. And also to confirm that, see this clean edge? It's probably about 1/16 of an inch or so. That matches this gap. So this thing has sometimes probably not even made contact, other times sort of sat in here and rubbed off center. Flywheel itself doesn't look bad. So I think to fix this, we just need a pilot bearing. I might do a thaw-out bearing anyway. Well, no, it feels great. And our pressure plate, I don't believe these are worn enough to even worry about. Ooh, can't even see them anyway. There we go. That noise I heard, grinding, my description was it was like splines hitting something when I was talking to a couple of the people about it. Do this here. It makes sense because when this was offset, they're chewed up in there pretty good. But luckily it's all past where the clutch rides. If I was an old farmer, I'd tap that back into place, see how solid it fits, but I'm not going to take that chance. We're going to replace it. Alright. Clutch disc doesn't look old at all. Maybe the guy that repaired the clutch replaced that. I'm hoping that he didn't install that bearing. The oil bearing could be a little new too. I don't know. Alright, well, that's probably it for this video. We'll stay tuned and see what happens. Looking at this transmission a little closer while I got the clutch out. There is a little bit of in-play in the input shaft. See if I can get it still enough to see. It's not a ton. The output shaft is actually a little worse. See if we can see the output shaft a little easier. Alright. Guess the output shaft's about the same. Hard to see it there, moving it, but I can feel it. Let's see. It's probably not a big deal for what it is for a tractor to play around on. I'll see how deep he wants to dig, and maybe we'll fix that too. Or maybe we'll hold off unless it becomes an issue. Okay, doing a little research with this pilot bearing here. There's a couple things I found. One, only the early Model M's have this brass bushing with the almost 1-inch shaft. The later models have a ball bearing and I think the shaft is in the neighborhood of 5/8 of an inch. So you'd press a ball bearing in there. Now to use the newer updated ball bearing, you'd have to change the input shaft, so we're not going to do that. I can't find this anywhere. I see clutch kits that say they come with both, but in the picture it shows 2 ball bearings, so I don't know how that is. But finding this separate, there's only a couple places that offer one, and when you see the picture, it doesn't look like the same thing. And mostly there's a couple eBay stores. What this is actually the wrong bushing. In some research I found out there is a very common, not for tractors, just universal, essentially. 1.5 inch outside diameter, inch inside diameter. And this is exactly that. This is exactly 1.5 inch outside diameter, which is why it fits loose. It can slide out of 1.5 inch hole. It needs to be oversized. With the 1 inch inside diameter, it's actually too loose. The other thing is it's too tall. It would actually stick out if you put it in there. So anyway, we don't have one, but I made one. So I have quite a few pieces of bearing bronze. This is the largest I have now, which is about 1.25 inches, so it's not big enough. But I do have a bunch of aluminum tubing here. So what I did is I made a bushing. So bearing bronze on the inside, aluminum on the outside, and that should fit and take care of it.